Hey, Lee.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Lee.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Yes.
All right. Just want to make sure my phone was working. Thanks. Back to mute.
Martin.
So we have Anna and John. Is that right? And Joe.
And Joe.
John was in as an attendee, so he's coming over. Here comes Anna.
All right. So we just have Joe. Well, we'll give him a minute. We can start.
Okay.
All right. Well, maybe
Wanna go
maybe
ahead?
we'll just start.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
So okay. So I'd like to open up our Inland Wetlands Agency meeting for Madison, Connecticut at 7:03 p.m. on August. Our first item is application 22-23 15 one where we had and hopefully you noticed that the applicant has reduced the scope of the current activity. And I don't know, do we have anybody here for the applicant?
Yes. They're coming over. Kayla, I don't know if it's me. Kayla, is your internet a little spotty?
Yeah, I just switched.
Okay.
I think, is it better? Because I just switched to a different router in our house.
Yeah, it is. It is better actually.
I noticed that. Yeah. Okay. So, um, we have, all right, we've got all the applicant people, it looks like.
Yeah. When you guys promote us to panelists, it takes a while to log on over.
That's
So
fine. I had to switch my internet over too.
so here we are. So good evening, everybody. For the record, my name is Michael Harkin. I'm a professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering, located at 78 Wolf Hollow Lane in the town of Killingworth, Connecticut. As Aaron had mentioned, and Madam Chairwoman had mentioned, that we reduced the size of the project based on discussions with Travis Gulick, who's the builder, and his clients, Hillary and Curtis Baker. They decided to take out the pool terraces, the fencing, as well as the relocation of the storm drainage pipe. We submitted a revised plan to noting that, which Aaron has, and I can pop it up, or Aaron can pop it up, whatever is easier. But substantially reducing the amount of disturbance of the project. And the reason for this was simply that in order to distinguish what's going to happen with that drainage pipe that doesn't have an easement that's on the property, and subsequently on the neighboring property as well, is going to take a lot of time to figure out. So we decided to pull that from the project so they can start working on the house/pool house with the addition, while we go through the process of trying with the town working together to rectify that situation with the pipe. So as you can see, we've taken all that information for the pool and the walls and everything off. We've left the associated electric, water in the same location that it's going to be when the pool does come back into the commission. We're calling out for the proposed addition. And one of the revisions that the commission had requested is that the staked hay bales and silt fence we had, as warranted, as directed by the engineer, we basically changed that so they have to go in. That's a permanent feature of the project. So other than that, pretty simple revision, knowing that we will be coming forth in the next few months down the road when we figure out the pipe with the application for the pool. We don't want to give you any false promises or pretend that we're misrepresenting, but we will be coming back with the pool. It's just, it's going to take a lot of time to figure that out.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant from any of the agency members?
I guess I have a question for myself real quick. And I don't know if this is to Aaron or the commission. Aaron, obviously you're aware that the town engineer wants us to find the outlet of that pipe. And we do realize that that outlet is in that wetlands area. And we do have to dig it up either by hand or, we're not trying to put a machine in there anyways, but it's going to be extremely difficult finding a needle in the haystack there. Do we have to ask for permission from the commission now to go in there and dig up that pipe? Or how should we handle that? Because that's a stipulation from the town engineer. I just want it on record that we will be going in the wetlands, whether it's us or a construction outfit, to find that. We don't want to have to use machines. We want to dig it by hand, but the reality is it might be 3 or 4 feet in there, and we will have people, in there making, I don't want to say a mess, but we'll be tramping around trying to dig up that pipe. So I think it needs to be on record that that's a requirement, and we will be in there doing that.
Well, okay, so I think we have a couple options: that the town can locate the end of their drainage pipe, or you, as the applicant, can, and I know that would be off of this subject property and on the adjacent property that's also owned by the Bakers. And the permissions that you could have is to locate that by hand.
Yeah, no,
So
like
you're likely, it's my guess is that it's daylighting somewhere in the stream itself. So it's going to be, I don't know if it would be easier to access that from the north, from the adjacent property, and walking in that way, as opposed to trying to bushwhack your way through the invasive or the vegetation that's there. So you wouldn't have as of right to use machinery in there to locate that. You would have to hand locate that. But again, and I had mentioned this to Travis when I spoke to him on the phone, that's something that the town also, I believe, has a responsibility to locate their pipe as well. And so that's a possibility to work with Public Works, and that the town meets you out there to locate the end of that pipe.
Yeah, that's not a problem. That's all news to me. So I think we'll work with the town and we'll touch base with you and the town engineer to do so. And obviously we'll have to touch base with the clients to allow the town to come on their other property to access that. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem to do so, but maybe you've already had that discussion with Travis. I'm just not aware of, but I think working all together, we could do that.
Yep, and I think the town does have some responsibility there in assisting to locate that outlet of the drainage pipe, and essentially, yeah, digging out the end of the pipe so that your surveyor can go out and shoot that elevation, so that you have a better idea of where a relocated pipe would need to daylight there. So yeah, we're happy to coordinate that with the property owner, and just as we're talking about this, a future application would likely require application on both properties, because it's likely that any newly relocated drainage pipe would be extending onto the adjacent property as well.
Yeah, no, understood, and all sounds good. I mean, that's pretty easy for us to achieve. And just so the commission knows, the owner owns both properties that this pipe is on, just for clarification.
Right.
That's
Okay.
helpful.
That is helpful. Easier. All right. So back to this application. Do any of the agency members have questions for the applicant? So, we've been out to the site. They've removed the pool and anything to do with the drainage pipe for now. We'll revisit that at some point in the future. So we're really looking at the house and the associated construction, remodeling, etc. for that.
I have one question.
Okay.
Is the addition, is that a full basement or is that a slab?
No basement.
Travis, do you want to answer that? Travis was dealing with all the architectural aspects. It is being raised up to meet FEMA requirements, but Travis can explain what he's doing under there.
No, it's going to be a new addition. Obviously, it's going to be only about 4.5 feet tall. So it's just going to be a crawl space just for mechanicals and things like that. But no, it won't be a full walk-in basement. It will be at grade, and then there'll be flood vents as well, about 12 inches from the bottom of that slab.
Okay, I guess I was curious if there's going to be enough soil generated from the excavation, if there's going to be a stockpile area, and maybe where that will be.
No, on our plan, I believe it calls out that there is going to be no stockpiling allowed on the site. And even besides that, we're not generating any fill over there. Again, it's just digging out for the footings. And Martin, the reason that we can't put in the full basement is because of the adjacent wetlands. It'll be completely submerged, and we don't have enough pumps to keep the water out 24/7. So that's why.
Okay.
And just another note, with regards to the pipe, Martin, we did contact the soil scientist. We do have a letter pertaining to that we will submit at the next application.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Martin, the stockpiling, that can be a possible condition also. No stockpiling on site, or if it is, that it needs to be enclosed by adequate soil and erosion controls.
Yeah, there's a no stockpiling note on our plan as well, so.
I think that's good.
All right.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Okay, so hopefully you saw for the agency members, Erin has sent out some draft resolutions for us to look at for our applications tonight.
I can screen share those if that's easier,
Okay,
Loa.
that'd be great. But what we can do, well, once Aaron shares that, if someone wants to, if you haven't already read them, you can glance at them, but we can make a motion encompassing, what we've discussed today, tonight, as well as, well, I guess what we've discussed tonight. So would anybody,
Well, I'm ready to make a motion to approve, but I'm wondering, do we have to read these in, or can we just thank Aaron for preparing them and have them made as part of the record?
It may be helpfully to include the conditions in your motion. Just so, I mean,
yeah,
just
so that would
the
be,
applicant is aware of what we're,
Right.
what you're motioning for, what your motion is for the record.
All right, well, I'd like to make a motion that we approve application 2223 15 Prospect Street with the conditions that the inland wetlands agent be notified at least 45 hours prior to any commencement of any regulated activity. And the second condition, at all times during site work and until soil areas are stabilized, the applicant shall install and maintain erosion sediment control measures. I'd also like to make sure that the applicant gets a copy of the full recommendation of our inland wetlands agent dated whatever date this is. And that's my
August.
motion.
okay. Anybody like to second?
I'll second.
Great. Any other comments? I think my only comment, it's 48 hours instead of 45 hours as written. But I think that encompasses our discussion of this application as revised by the applicant.
Yes, it does.
The date of Aaron's memo, by the way, is August 1st. So I think we need to make sure the applicant gets a copy of the full memo.
That would be in an approval letter, Lee. Yes.
Okay,
They get the full text of that resolution.
other comments? Oh, go
Just
ahead.
so I know, so after we go through, after we approve this, a formal letter goes out? I don't think
Yes.
I don't think I
Yes,
ever was
certified
aware of
mail.
that.
Yes, it does. That's
Oh,
our
interesting.
official notice to the applicant, and then a legal notice is run as well.
Oh, okay.
Not with the
good.
full resolution, but essentially indicating that it was approved with conditions.
Okay, good, thanks.
Sure.
All right. If there are no other comments or questions, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Okay,
All right, guys, thank you for your time. Have a great night. We'll see you in a
Thanks.
couple months.
You too, Michael.
Take care.
Thank you.
You.
You too, Mike.
okay, so we are moving along to application 22-29, 544 Opening Hill Road. Again, this is one where we did a site walk. This is a house, something we had previously approved, but then the applicant wanted to move the house, so shifted it down closer to the road and the driveway. As you'll recall, the septic system is farther back. There's now a pump up to the septic, but it has decreased the driveway area to some extent. And we did a pretty thorough walk around that property. That was the steep property. So
Bob,
Um,
don't joining us.
great. One thing we discussed at the site walk with the applicant was the footing drains, delineating those on the plans, and also being clear about the limit of clearing and where the lawn would be as, where the wetland area or where the silt fence is now are going to be. I guess it's there now. But
Yes.
those are the things we had discussed at the site walk. All right, so we have the applicant, and
Yes,
did you want to say anything else about the application, and then we can ask questions?
yes, I do. Good evening. I'm Bob Doan from Doan Engineering. I'm a professional engineer and licensed land surveyor. And I appreciate everyone coming out for the site walk. Today, I sent revised plans to Aaron. And on those plans, what I did was one of the questions that was raised at the site walk was what was happening to the lawn. And so I proposed a 4-foot wide wood chip planting bed with dogwood, winterberry, high bush, blueberry, and shadblow as options for planting. And that will form a formal edge, if you will, of the formal lawn. And the trees beyond that are to remain with maintenance cutting only. At the site walk, I was asked if there was a detail for the stormwater recharge. There actually was a detail of the galleries on the plan, but it was a sanitary system gallery detail instead of a modification of that detail. And so that was added to the second sheet of the plan. And both the first sheet and the second sheet have a revision date on the plan of today. And I think that those were the necessary plan revisions. Kiloa, you mentioned the footing drain. That always was shown on the plan. The proposed footing drain outlet is shown. But the question out in the field was related to the stormwater recharge. Also, I spoke with Tim Mack today about the other concern that was discussed was the skirt of the silt fence and the installation of the silt fence. And he is going to, as they generate more wood chips, they will blow a wood chip wedge, if you will, along the skirt of the silt fence, so that those voids that we saw in the very rocky soil will be filled in with wood chips. And the silt fence will stay there until the site is stabilized. And that's about it, I guess. I'll answer any other questions if the commission or anybody on a call has questions.
All right. Well, it's great. I appreciate your quick turnaround time on the plan. And the plantings look great. Do any of the other agency members have questions or comments? Martin?
Yeah, I was just curious, is there any details on those plants in terms of the size?
Yeah, there's a planting list on the left-hand side of the plan.
Okay,
They're 3 to 4 feet.
okay. And how many are proposed?
I didn't count them, but I do show a general location of them. They're the plants are numbered, and on the planting bed, I have a circle with a number in it. I didn't count them. If you go, yeah, if that's enlarged, those circles
I
each
see.
have a number in it.
Okay,
Okay, and those are the various plants.
all right. And they're proposed to be installed just just above the silt fence,
Yes. Mhm. Yep.
Mhm. which is
Which is
About-
to the right, the SF.
right. And is that what, about 3 or 4 feet up above the wetland edge elevation?
It's a little bit more than that. About, I would say about 4 feet. Yeah, 3 or 4 feet
Okay.
accurate. Mhm.
And so these shrubs, they obviously they're sort of mesic. They like to have some moisture in the soil. They can tolerate droughthiness. I know the soil there is actually, when you're not in rock or boulders, is pretty sandy, pretty well drained stuff, I think. I just want to make sure that these plants will be able to, do well there in that location.
Mhm.
And maybe we monitor them for a couple of years to make sure that they're all taking, and if not, we, replace them with maybe ones that might be a little bit more drought tolerant.
Okay. All right, on the planting list, I did word it as suggested planting. So I agree with you, Martin, that they're a little bit high for that, those types chosen, but I wanted to make sure that I was picking a woody vegetation that was a permanent in nature and not an active planting bed, if you will.
Mhm.
I wanted to reflect more of a buffer than a garden.
Sure.
So,
I think it's a nice, honestly, I'm pleased by the thoughtfulness of it. I think when we were on the sidewalk, we asked about the existing trees that are along that silt fence, and you had indicated they were all to remain.
yes.
That was important to the commission. And so seeing these extra shrubs added, these native species, is very nice to see. Again, if we can just, verify that they're going to do well there into the future, maybe, a couple of annual reports indicating that they're thriving, or if any of them fail, that they get replaced.
Okay,
That's all that I think that we should look for.
that's
I think it's a nice addition to the
problem.
plan.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Great. And yes, that's a great idea and something that we often ask for in our,
Mhm.
we talk about wetland plantings, is monitoring and making sure that those plants make it through and are established. Other comments or questions for the applicant?
For the monitoring, is there like a usual amount of years that you guys would recommend?
We've been doing about 3 to 5, depending. This one, I would say probably 3, but happy to hear other comments.
And the monitoring, does it consist on giving Aaron a call to come out and take a look at them, or do we do the report ourselves?
Well, one option is to bond for the plantings, the landscape plantings, and then, at the time of, for 3 years and for monitoring. And then if they have survived, you can just request a release of the bond. Another is to provide, yes, annual report of the status of them.
Okay,
Health of the plants to the land use office.
if we could
I'm
make
hoping
it,
not to be the inland wetland agent in 3 years.
oh, come on.
Whatever my replacement is.
So if the applicant, and then the homeowner could do the report, that's great. And we don't have any problem in doing that.
So this property,
I hope to not be working in 3 years, but I'll do the report if I'm around.
will this property be retained by Tim, or will this be?
No,
be sold?
it's going to be sold.
So a bond is a good.
Okay,
suggestion
we
would
could
be.
do that. I'd be happy to work up a price for you.
Yeah, there's not a lot of plants here.
No.
It would be small.
All right. Other questions or comments?
I was thinking when we were walking around, some of the wetland flags had either been ripped down by trees that have fallen or whatnot, maybe just reflagging them so that during construction it's obvious where they are.
Sure. We can, we'll replace those that we're missing, but the silt fence is, I think it's important to note, the silt fence is in place and that will definitely be maintained throughout construction. So there shouldn't be any activity adjacent to the wetlands or at the wetlands, but we can pick up and reflag those few that we saw missing.
Yeah, I think it was only maybe 2 or 3 that were
Yeah,
missing.
they were on the ground below, and I got to talk to Rich about using more substantial branches to hang them on.
Good luck.
I'll nail him for it.
Okay. All good comments. Anything else? All right. Well, Aaron had also drafted a draft motion for us. We have since discussed a couple of extra items that would hopefully go into a motion. The length of time to monitor the plants, as well as a bond, and in addition, reflagging some of the wetland flags that have been on the ground. So given that, does anybody want to make a stab at a motion? We can always modify, but just to get us started.
Sure, I'll butcher this one. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the wetland application for 544 Opening Hill Road, map 116, lot 11, with the conditions that the inland wetland agency should be notified within 48 hours prior to commencement of any further regulated activity.
Yeah.
Should we say? That the erosion control is stabilized as discussed with, the addition of wood chips along the skirt. And that any other measures deemed necessary by the agent to prevent erosion sedimentation to the water courses be implemented. That there be an annual report to the inland wetland agent regarding the health of the proposed wetland plantings, and then that continue for a period of 3 years until the plants have been demonstrated to be surviving adequately, and if not, that the ones that fail should be replaced. And lastly, for the wetland flags to be, reinstalled in their original locations on the property.
Great. Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Can I have a point of order, maybe?
Yes.
Not typically in the middle of a motion.
No.
Oh, you can't?
Not typically, no. Although I do have a question. Maybe it's the same one. Martin, you indicated you wanted an annual report. Are you also indicating that you didn't mention anything about a financial guarantee or surety to
That was my question. Thank you, Aaron.
ensure the plantings? So I just want to clarify if.
Yeah, I don't know, for a planting area that it's not a huge, site-wide landscaping implementation plan. I thought for something like this, we would relieve the burden of a surety bond.
Yeah, I think the question came up because this house is going to be sold. I mean, it'll have to, so this, whatever we decide, we'll have to go with it to.
Oh, I see.
Beyond
Yeah.
the CO. and
Beyond the applicant, which is why the bond came up as a more secure way of passing
Sure.
along this responsibility.
Okay, yeah, good point. Yeah, let's include the bond in the 3-year, some kind of a bond equivalent to what the cost of the plants and the installation is that we typically do.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I think we also typically which I should have mentioned, is we're not necessarily expecting all the plants to survive. I think 80%. Is that, I think,
What'd you say, 80%, Kayla?
I'm trying to, I think in the past we have requested 80% survival rates. Does that sound reasonable, or does that jog memories for anybody else?
I always shoot for 100.
You would shoot for 100? Look at you.
That's what I do.
Okay. Maybe 90%? Just to be, just recognizing that it can be tough out there. And I mean, maybe 90%. You're right. It's not a lot of trees. We want to have as many of them as possible, or shrubs, make it. 100% is tough. It's a great goal. I don't know. Does anybody else have comments on that?
No, I think 80 is good. A good number.
80 is fine with me.
Well, we can bump it to 85. Make Martin feel better.
It's fine. No, it's totally fine.
Okay. My other comment is, I think you had said lot 11. I think it's lot 1, or vice versa on the.
Yes, that's
Oh,
correct.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, and so we'll have a specified survival rate that we're expecting. We'll have a bond. Are there any other comments on the motion?
So that 80% survival rate, that would be annually, not in total, correct?
Oh, well, that's a good point.
So that every year, at least 80% of the plants would have to
Right.
survive.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So I understand you're saying 20% of whatever's left can die every year for each of the 3 years? Or are we maintaining 80% of the total over the course of the 3-year period?
It should be 80%. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
latter.
80% of the total.
Yes.
Yeah, we want 80% to always be
Survive.
there
I agree.
for at least 3 years. I shouldn't say always. For 3 years, we want 80% of what was planted to be there. Wordsmithing. Any other comments, questions from the agency members on our motion? It's good to be detailed. All right. All in favor? Raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstaining? All right. Approved with those conditions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Two.
Two.
Right. All right. So on to our third
Okay.
application. 22-30, 183 Race Hill Road.
That would be me.
That is you.
So we should have the record reflect that I'm recusing myself from the board, and I'm not going to vote on my own application, obviously. So I have a house that has a bank that grades down to a road, and I realized halfway through my plans that which are very basic, that it's within 100 feet of the stream across the road. So I applied and met with John, walked at the site, and the front of it, and I think this was because of the construction that was done there by the town, I have some Norwegian pines that died. There's about 4 that died, and there's one other tree there that just is grown in a way that needs to come out. So what I want to do is take out the 5 trees and kind of, get rid of a lot of the just overgrowth there that's been growing up around these dead trees, the vines and things, and put in, some local trees to replace them, but much smaller, and then put some non-invasive plants on the bank with some mulch to just clean it up. So I don't know if you're familiar with Race Hill, but it drops down over a bridge that goes over stream and then starts an S-turn before it goes up towards the development that's Genesee Estates or Lane or whatever. So it really is just taking out the dead trees that are, way past their point of life, and then just kind of replacing them with smaller trees. Probably will be white pines, maybe a Japanese maple, and just cleaning up the whole bank, aesthetically making it look much nicer. And then on the first part of, well, just about 100 yards on the other side of the bank, there's 2 dead trees that are even further up towards the house that I want to take out. And I don't know if you've opened up the plans, but, or my chicken scratching, I'll call it. It shows you like the corner around Race Hill and circle the 5 trees in the bank and the tree. And then if you can see further to the left up the bank, there's another driveway that comes in. It's a circular driveway that goes around the back and then down between us and the neighbors. There's 2 trees that are dead there that I want to take out. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. That's what I'm trying to get accomplished.
Okay. I think I did, Bob, just to kind of add on to your application materials, I did include in just some staff notes here an aerial photo of the area that might be a little easier for everybody to see, and just kind of get a sense of where the wetland system is here across the street. This is Race Hill Road. And Bob, this is your property here, a portion of your property. So I think this is your main driveway. And just correct me if I'm wrong, when I drove out, it looked like it was this group here was these were the 5 trees that you're looking to remove with the invasives.
Correct.
And then the
Yeah.
other ones are back in this area here.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So
Yep, exactly.
okay, so as I think you, the agency can see, the closest wetland system is here on the other side of the road. So likely, all of this activity would occur. Some of it may occur within the town right of way, which is a separate jurisdiction with the engineering department and potentially reviewed by the tree warden in town, but it is all within the upland area, if that helps clarify the scope of the project.
Are you
Right.
taking out the stumps too, Bob?
I'm going to grind the stumps, correct, yeah.
Good.
Because I'm going to need to create an area for the new trees, pretty much.
Yeah.
And the dead trees or the trees, whatever the trees you're taking out are just going to be gone. They're
Gone, yeah. There's going to be no stockpiling or anything on site.
I'm fine with this as long as the trees that are being replaced with the new trees are, of course, native and, are upland trees as well.
Other comments from agency members? It mean just given the location and that you're across the street. It doesn't look like, and I don't know how far. Oh, wait, is that do we know how far? Is anything in the regulated activity area?
Yes, this
It's
is
in the
within
uplands.
100
It's
feet.
all in the uplands.
It's
Yeah,
all in upland,
It's in
okay,
the upland,
okay, but it's,
within
yeah,
100 feet, but it's a good distance away.
right, and it's across the street,
Yes,
which, yes, so,
and
Um,
could potentially be thought of as ordinary maintenance. To
right, and as a, right, or whatever.
Right.
I don't, if you're not stockpiling, and if I agree with Anna as far as, replanting with native species, if there's a right of way issue, then, that obviously is in our jurisdiction, that would be with the town and the tree warden. It doesn't look like there is much impact, any impact probably from taking these trees out. Other comments? Okay. It's very quiet. All right, so we have a draft motion here as well. Anybody want to make a run at it?
I move that we approve application 22-30-183 Race Hill Road with the conditions that the applicant notify the inland wetland agent at least 48 hours prior to commencement of any regulated activity, and that all trees and brush are removed from the property. And any disturbed soil shall be immediately stabilized with seed or hay.
All right. I'll second. Any comments, questions? I guess I would specify native plantings because that's what we try to encourage.
That's fine with me.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor of this motion, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Great. All right. You can cut your trees down or the town's trees that you'll have to sort that out. Somebody's trees.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So moving right along. Now we have application 22-32, 1389 Durham Road. This was a site walk we had last week as well, where the owners would like to, they want to put an addition and a three-car garage with an associated concrete driveway within the upland review area. As you will remember from the site walk, there's a water course going right through there, and it was dry, but obviously isn't all the time. So it does fall under our jurisdiction. We'd asked to, I think we had asked at the site walk to get more measurements for how far the driveway is going to be from the water course. And do we have the applicants? Yes. Here.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, my name's Tom Knowlton. I'm a professional civil engineer and the homeowner and resident of 1389 Durham Road. And you are correct. At the site walk, there was a question about measurements from the proposed eastern edge of the driveway to the water course. So, Aaron, I apologize. I didn't email that to you until during this meeting, but
Yes, I got it, Tom. I
oh,
think-
okay. Oh, great.
Yep, thank you.
So north is up on this map that we're looking at. So the closest point of the driveway is at the northern end, and it's about 10 feet away from the water course, and it widens out at the southern end to about 28 feet away from the water course. So the driveway as shown is running parallel to the front edge of the house.
All right. Well, questions, comments from the commission? I guess, one comment that I'll make is, it's that's a lot of pavement. And that's a lot of pavement that you're putting, into the lawn area. And there's a reduction in area for infiltration now, right? So it can't really infiltrate before heading into the water course. So, one option is, that we often recommend is a vegetated buffer that would add some capacity to take care of stormwater runoff. Or reducing some, I guess you have a turnaround and it's a lot of impervious surface going in. So that's one comment that I'll throw out there to think about as we discuss. Other members have discussion or comments, questions for the applicant?
I don't think unless I'm missing them, the plans don't have a grade on them, any topography showing where that new drainage would flow. I assume it's going towards, the water course, but maybe just getting some grades or drainage arrows pointing to that direction, confirming that. And also, I'm sure it's not going to be so much new sheet flow that it's going to overwhelm that water course. But I'm just curious if there's any concern that those adjacent culverts on that water course can handle the new amount of runoff that will be generated. Because I think it was pretty clogged up when we were there.
Yeah, there's a lot of grass clippings and other things in there.
Yeah, if there's like a maintenance plan or something,
Right.
just to clear that out.
Okay. Yes, and it isn't clear. There is no grade. It doesn't appear to be a grade. And yeah, the assumption would be that most of that will go into the water course.
I think most of it slopes in that general direction. Tom, is that?
Correct. Yeah, it does slope from the house
Yeah.
east, to the right on this map into the water course. Correct.
And same with the portion of the driveway that's I guess north of the house. It's not going to go on to that adjacent, I think it was a gravel road that was right next to it.
That was a paved driveway to the north that serves the two houses to the north and west of our property.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not adding additional storm water to an adjacent property.
Right.
Our property is down gradient of our neighbor to the north.
So that water course drains to the south? Is that?
Correct. Correct.
Okay, that stream drains to the south? Yeah, I should have looked at that when we were out there, but I didn't, so.
Yeah, there was no water. There was no water when you came out last Thursday for the site visit, but there,
That's true. That's
there
true.
is a pond. If you walk further to the north, a couple properties up, there is a pond to the north. So this water course is basically the overflow for that pond.
I see. So it's flowing to the south. I got it.
Right. And there's a wetland, yeah, that down there that that I walked over to, at least partly.
And then on our neighbor to the south, then it turns and goes out towards Durham Road, Route 79, and then runs parallel to the road there.
So, this plan, was this created using survey?
The house was originally built in 1986, so we used the survey map that was done back in originally for this house.
Okay, I guess I'm just wondering about, the accuracy of the location of the water course. How can we be sure that, it is where it is as shown on this map, and therefore the distances off the driveway, to that water course being correct, because as everyone is saying, the tolerances are pretty tight. And we want to make sure that it's, appropriately shown and accurately shown on a map with regard to the proposed construction.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we're sort of taking this water course on face value. We all saw it. It looks like it's fairly discreet. There, based on what I could tell, it looks like there's, when the house was built, there was some filling that went on in the yard, and all that was really left is just the water course running through. So we really don't know, how wide this, wetland may be. It could actually be wider than what's shown in that water course. I know that with the hand auger right around 20 inches, we started to see some evidence of wetland soil. So it's really close. And I think I would just personally feel a lot more comfortable if it was looked at by a soil scientist and flagged and surveyed so we knew exactly where it was and maybe a little bit more about the functions and values of the wetland. And, when I think about snow removal, where's the snow, going to be piled? And then, if you're going down the driveway heading north, you'll probably be putting the snow off on the right side of the driveway on the wetland side. And after several storms, you might actually be, the snowbank might actually be encroaching into the wetland itself. That's one thing I thought of. And certainly it's just a residential house. There's going to be roadway runoff here. There's probably going to be some sand and salt, I would guess. And as people were saying, it's not a lot of, grass or vegetation to filter or slow down or treat the stormwater runoff the driveway. Although we don't expect there to be too, not loaded like a roadway would be in terms of, roadway runoff, but it is a pretty large impervious surface that we're installing versus the lawn that's there now. And I would ask, how wide is that driveway and what's the, do you really need that turnaround? Is that to get cars closer to the front door? Is there anything we can do to reduce the impervious area or shift the driveway? Have you had any other safe, prudent, and feasible alternatives that you've looked at for this?
The driveway itself is 14 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
And we could potentially, like I said, that right now the driveway is parallel with the front of the house. We could potentially offset the driveway so that it's more parallel with the water course. And that would increase the, the closest point right now, like I said, on the north end is 10 feet. We could potentially increase that to something more like 20, possibly even 25 feet. We're limited by the well that's in the middle of the front lawn there, though, that 45-foot measurement that's shown there. That's indicating, the distance between the well and the water course. So with a 14-foot wide driveway and a bit of a buffer, so that the well's not too close to the driveway, like I said, we could probably get about 20, maybe 25 feet all the way across that eastern edge of the driveway between the water course and the driveway, potentially.
Mm-hmm. Could you go with a 12-foot width? Or is there going to be is that curve too tight for a narrower driveway?
No, that curve, I mean, this is just for, vehicles, cars and such. We're not, we don't have any trailers or anything else that we're parking back there. So we could potentially go to 12 feet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the turnaround, is that, I guess you'd be looking at, well, if you pull down the driveway to the new garage, there's no room there's no turnaround there. You'd have to back down.
Well, in front of the garage itself, there's like a little hammer turnaround, if you will, that little part
Okay.
off to the northwest.
Okay.
That was the intent of that little.
Okay, so you
piece
can
there.
turn around up there.
Yeah.
And it's what's the intent of the circular part of the driveway at the south?
The thought there was that center part there that kind of looks like an elongated circle would be like a planting area, no pavement there. And then I guess the point of the circular driveway was just to allow people to, drive up to the front door if they needed to, drop off somebody, or, if we did have gatherings, family gatherings, friends, whatever, that there'd be additional parking available for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of impervious surface that's being added. You have the numbers there, which is great, but it's a lot. It's almost triple, not quite.
This might just be
Yeah.
my inexperience with impervious surfaces, but is there a different type of material that would allow some sort of permeability that could be used besides, standard asphalt?
Well, I don't know if you're asking me or the commission, but there's certainly the possibility for gravel. I think the reason we chose asphalt was just to aid in snow removal.
There are other like pervious pavers and there's green concrete. But they're very expensive still, I think. I don't think we've gotten to the point where they would be great options, but they're kind of prohibitively expensive still.
Underlining my inexperience with them.
Well, no, I mean, it would be great if they were more accessible.
Mhm. I'm thinking something along the lines of my first thought was, almost like a French drain on the downslope side of that driveway, a stone trench that intercepts the water as it runs off initially and actually stores it for a little bit, and then maybe overflows, sort of like a level spreader. But an even better idea might be sort of an elongated rain garden along the downslope side of the driveway that captures, the runoff, provides some treatment, and then discharges, in a level spreader sort of fashion to that water course. Of course, you couldn't really plow snow into it because the vegetation is critical to the way they function. But that would provide some storage capacity and certainly some treatment before getting over into the water course. Although it is, it's a fair undertaking. It's a big landscape feature, basically. How long is that driveway from to what's the length of the driveway where we would need that sort of a feature? Is it 100 feet, 120 feet, maybe?
From
Yeah, the lot's 170 feet wide, roughly.
Okay.
yeah,
So-
from the start of the curve where the 10-foot measurement is shown there on that drawing to the curve at the southern end is about 70 feet.
70 feet, yeah.
Yeah. And
And
my wife wouldn't mind. She would love to have another garden there. So if
uh-huh. Yeah, rain gardens have been, and even the egg-shaped feature where you imagine a garden, if maybe this circular part of the driveway could be pitched toward it, and then excavated out with some permeable material at the base and some filter fabric and then some peat moss and soil and some nice garden-like plantings. So it would again serve for storage and infiltration and take some of the curse off the impervious area.
Mhm.
But yeah, reducing that impervious area, it is a lot. And being able to reduce it, I think, is essential. Going to 12 feet would certainly help, and trying to maybe make it shorter by bringing that curve away from the wetland where it's at 10 feet would help too. So maybe you can play around with some alternative designs.
Okay.
All right. So any other agency members want to offer some comments for the applicant? So I think what you're hearing, Mr. Knowlton, is that it would, there's a lot of impervious surface. It's pretty close to the wetland, and there's, definite concerns about where that sheet flow is going to go. And also, the plow, where the snow is going to go as well. So, I think there are some, there are different options that have been suggested that you might want to explore. We have one more meeting where you can come back and maybe offer a revised version, taking into account what we've discussed tonight. And Aaron, there will be notes and meetings, and of course this is recorded, so you can go to YouTube and watch this again to see what our comments were, how fun.
Sure. And Steph, I can, if you want to go over some of the recommendations Tom, we can, I'm happy to sit down with you and do that. And
Okay. Yeah, I've been taking notes as we've been going too. So
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think there's definitely a concern about the impervious surface. There's, as Martin said, there's a concern that, where exactly that water course is, we can see the concrete, where part of it is, but, I don't, there's some concern that maybe it extends out more. I don't know. It's all lawn right now. But definitely the impervious surface and managing that water runoff, and minimizing both of those would be great.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else want to add anything before?
No, I think anything you can do to, as Martin and Kayla said, minimize the amount of runoff and slow it down with a rain garden or something. That's really all we're looking for you to try to figure out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Also, the issue of just making sure that it's properly located on a plan.
Right.
so that's, okay, so that's something that I think the agency should clarify as a whole, that what you're requesting of the property owner. Is it to have the inland wetlands delineated on site and a survey, or just delineated and he can pick them up? With measurements off of the house. I think that level of detail should be addressed, because that requires a new survey that could take some time.
well, I
Yeah,
can tell you, I did verify, measuring off the corners of the house to the head walls. So I know that's accurate to whatever, with the tape measure, whatever, but maybe plus or minus a foot, right? So I feel pretty comfortable with where it's shown on the drawings in relation to the house at this time, but I'm certainly open to what the commission would prefer.
My thought on locating it, I think that's for this instance, given the fact that it's a pretty linear feature and it's pretty close to the house, there's things to measure off of, and I just want to make sure that it's to scale in terms of its distance from the house. But the other part of it is having a soil scientist look at it, just to make sure that it is the narrow linear feature that we suspect that it is. But knowing that there's been disturbance and fill in there, it actually could be bigger than it actually is, or than it appears to be, let's just say, because it was, filled in and disturbed. And I'm thinking that it'd be good to have a soil scientist look at it to make sure that, it is what we think it is.
Just to add in there, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if people agree, and you feel free to disagree, that's just my thought. Maybe it's a little bit conservative because it is so evident, but it just seems like we're just making a big assumption that that's the wetland and it's measured off the house and there it is. And the soil scientist might have some recommendations for a rain garden too. That could be helpful. Some specifics for you to work with somebody that could help devise a plan that you could work with. So just, I don't know, paraprofessional eyes I thought might be helpful, but I could be swayed.
No, I agree with you, Martin, just because of the constraints and the tight quarters, having something more recent and something verifiable would be good.
Okay.
I was also just going to say some sort of maintenance plan, either manually, just taking out some of that leaf debris that has compiled in the stream itself to make sure it can handle that new stormwater level.
Yeah, I had just weed eated that area so you could see it for the site visit last Thursday. So
Okay. So I guess there's definitely an interest in having someone come out and locate the wetlands. Soil scientists come out and locate the wetlands so that there is an updated version map, I guess. of them. Does that encompass what you were saying, Martin?
Yeah, yeah, even if they, they could hang the flags and write a letter, and even if they provided a sketch map with distances off the house themselves, I think that would be adequate in this case.
Okay, so not a full survey, just delineating where these wetlands are in relationship to the house. All right. That's great. And that'll be helpful. And that's helpful going forward for any property. All right. So you've been taking notes, Mr. Knowlton. I know Aaron has been taking notes. So hopefully that is clear. And obviously you can ask Aaron for clarification, hopefully. And then we'll, hopefully see you next month.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So next, 22-33, 100 Bradley Road, also known as our Brookside Drive, for those getting to the sidewalk. And again, so this is a site walk we did on Thursday. We walked it, we discussed with the applicant the proposed activity, and we had some suggestions with respect to how to manage, here we go again, managing stormwater at the end of that kind of paved area. All right, great. So we have the applicant, looks like his attorney. And great. Did you want to comment or update us?
Yeah, I would love to briefly before I turn it over to Greg, who I know you all had a site visit last week that I was not at, but there's been obviously developments and activity in response to that sidewalk. But for the record, my name is Chris McKeon. I represent the applicant. The applicant in this case, and for the record, I want to clarify what we all know as Brookside Road and the address, which is on the agenda being 100 Bradley Road, because this road is a portion of the greater property that contains the hearth. It is owned by a large corporation that operates assisted living facilities throughout the country called Ventas. Gulick Properties, my client, is an easement holder on that road. There is a recorded easement at volume 2070, page 114, which for all intents and purposes renders Gulick Properties the maintainer and controller of the road. There is some cost sharing in that easement, but we make this application to the agency as an easement holder, but with the consent of the owner of the property, and that is the stated owner on the application. It's an LLC called NHP Madison LLC. That is this corporation Ventas, their attorney. I have been in touch on numerous occasions, and we do have their consent to the filing of the application and the plans as were submitted originally. I was in touch with our attorney today about the hearing tonight. I wanted to make sure that he had granted that consent, and he has, which will be documented once we hopefully get a final approval. And I know exactly what your agency is requiring as a result of the site walk that occurred last week, and some of the ideas that are incorporated in the plan that Greg will go through with you. We additionally have, as you will recall, David Lord, soil scientist, was out at the site. He did submit a letter memorializing what he recommended at that site walk and which have been incorporated into Greg's plan. And finally, so that you know, in addition to working with the owner of the real estate, that being the company that owns the house or operates the hearth, we also have a multi-party agreement with the neighbors on Brookside Road that they are on board with and very desirous of having Brookside Road paved, which of course we've gotten approval from planning and zoning to pave to the 100-foot regulated area. And this application is seeking approval from your agency to pave just a little bit further to get to the driveways of the people who own the two homes furthest west on Brookside Road. One of the property owners, the property owner to the north, owner of 14 Brookside Road, it's owned in the name of an LLC, TMD LLC. Jamie Gardner is, I believe, present at the meeting, and we've been in touch with him. He's familiar with what is being proposed. Again, anxious to have a paved roadway to the driveway that services his property. But I wanted to note that he is here, and I think Greg will address what the area in front of his home will look like under what we're proposing. I think if it pleases the agency, we can hear from Mr. Gardner to confirm that what we're proposing is in fact meeting with his understanding. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Greg to talk about what we are proposing.
All right, so Greg, did you want to go?
Yeah, Mike, I don't know if you can hear me, but my computer is asking me to reload some stuff, and I'm just trying to close out of it.
Do you need me to pull up plans for you, Greg, or do you have access to them? I know.
No, I'd like to share.
Okay.
Let's see. All right. Can everyone hear me? My name is Greg Fettis with Fettis Engineering, professional engineer, registered licensed in the state of Connecticut, representing the property owner at 45 Wall Street, which has easement rights over Brookside Road. I'm going to share my screen. As Attorney McKeon stated, we were out there Thursday night and with David Lord, who submitted a letter also, which I will share also. But so I think, you know, the areas in question is relatively stable. The vegetation is, again, stable. So we're really just gonna kind of tidy up a swale, and I'm going to share my screen now. Let's see. Okay, can everyone see? This is an 8.5 by 11 that we submitted today to staff. But basically, the proposed gentle grass swale is this area here, which goes from the end of the paved area towards that vegetated area that we witness in the field. The balance of that area, there was a, I want to say, leftover little piles of crushed stone or processed gravel from plowing Brookside Avenue or Brookside Road. So basically it's just going to be cleaning up that excess gravel, crushed stone, and really just not touching it, but just, I mean, kind of keeping it intact, because we don't want to disturb it and create additional runoff or additional erosion or additional sediment movement. So that's the area that's shaded here. And again, a little portion of what we're paving is going to go back to a basin here that's going to treat the stormwater. What we can't get to go towards that basin is it's gonna run off into the swale and continue on to the wetlands, as we saw in the field. So I'm just gonna also, there's a letter from David Lord, dated August 1st, which basically kind of reiterates what I just talked about. And that there's basically just restating what I just showed in the plan. If there's any questions, I can answer them. I don't have the original plan that we submitted, Aaron. If that needs to be shared, you can share it. I don't think I need to see it, but if the commission does, then we can go from there.
Okay. Well, great. And thank you for also your quick turnaround time on the plans. Are there questions for Mr. Fettis?
I do. Yeah. I guess I'm, so this is what we talked about on our site walk, and I think it's a good plan. It's fairly non-invasive. It doesn't look like there's going to be, it's not a big watershed we're talking about here post-construction. So I think it's a solid plan. What I want to hear about a little bit, I think, is in the broader view, the catch basins for the roadway are going into, subgrade infiltrators. So we're going to be, doing some excavation along that roadway in addition to, I'm sure, creating some road base. And so there's going to be a fair amount of, exposed soil at different times during construction. And obviously the path of stormwater is, down the lane and into the brook. And I'm just wondering if, what the thinking is, if there's going to be phasing, how are we going to avoid, gross erosion, down the lane and, into this area that we're talking about. Do we beef it up with some hay bales? Is it going to be phased with, silt fence or hay bales going across the lane at any time? Can you just tell us a little bit more about, the construction along the laneway and how we're going to control erosion from the overall project?
Sure. Well, we have on this plan, we show the silt fence down at the kind of the bottom of the disturbed area, which is located just, I don't have a north arrow on here, but I think it's kind of to the east of the brook or the little stream. And I don't recall from the original approval with planning and zoning how we were, but my guess is that we had a silt fence running again would be to the west of the disturbed area. So, and it's relatively flat. The current roadway is gravel, and it's relatively stable. There's not a lot of erosion or sediment movement. But again, this is all excavation here, which is, you kind of see where I'm pointing, the underground infiltration, the piping, the catch basin. But it's simply controlled with silt fence. I'm not sure that we need hay bales on site. But as always, we are, if there's a problem, we're at the wetlands enforcement officers beck and call to bring in whatever's necessary to control erosion. But I don't really see that in this case, just because it's so flat and relatively established vegetation to the west.
Mhm. Will the swale be installed before you do the laneway?
Most likely we'll do the work to the east first, and just protect that whole area to the west. 'Cause again, we were out there, it's pretty stable, pretty well established. There's not a lot of sediment. There's that, relatively no sediment movement. I think we can control. I like to get all the work done first and then kind of go in and we'll pave the whole thing, put the grass swale in after we pave. Otherwise, it most likely is going to get disrupted during the pavement and the grading and so forth. So I like to do that last typically.
Okay.
What about the silt fence? When were you planning on putting the silt
Well, the
fence?
silt-
that's
Yeah,
shown
the
on
silt fence will
plans
go
now?
in first and foremost, and be typically the town wetland enforcement officer would inspect that prior to us starting construction. So as long as, either way, that goes in first, whether they inspect it and approve it or not, it's going in first to protect.
So it goes in before you build the catch basins and those infiltration
Yes,
things. Okay.
yes, sir.
Yep.
Other questions for the applicant? Okay. Well, it's very quiet. All right. Well, as with our other applications, Aaron had drafted a draft resolution, I think. I'm just gonna pull that up.
Yeah, I can share it.
Oh, do you want me to stop sharing?
Sure, that would be,
Yes.
yeah, and then I'll trade you.
If I could make one further point, because I know that Mr. Gardner is on the Zoom, who is a neighbor, and when I spoke to him earlier today, he was concerned about the area after, I guess, east of where the paving ends, so between the wetland and the end of the pavement, the swale and the area that essentially is being left as is. And, would that lawn be mowed? Would he be able, or would people on the lane be able to, he doesn't want weeds in his front yard, obviously. And after I hung up with him, I looked at the agreement we have with the neighbors on Brookside Road, and the maintenance of the entire area all the way to the wetlands is the easement area and is obligated to be maintained by Gulick Properties, with some cost sharing based on parking requirements of all of the people on the road. So the continued maintenance of that area is accounted for in the agreement and will be done going forward. So I wanted to make sure that Mr. Gardner knew that, and that is fully the intention, that the maintenance of the easement area, it goes beyond just paved areas. It is the entire area. So that is covered by the easement. So that should give him some assurance that it's addressed.
Okay. Well, that is great. I'm sure that's reassuring for all the homeowners, residents of that road. All right. Other, yes, thank you.
I apologize. I think Mr. Gart does have his hand raised. Would you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Go ahead, Jamie. You should be able to.
I think I'm unmuted now. So,
There you go.
hi, this is Jamie Gardner. I am the homeowner at 14 Brookside under TMD LLC. I did speak with Attorney McKeon earlier today, and my concern, as long as the paving goes to past my driveway and whatever's in front of that remains that gravel untreated area, that was fine. That was acceptable to my wife and I. So I wanted to concur and let everyone know that we were in agreement with that. So.
Well, that's great. And that's helpful. Thank you. And yes, it looks like you have the pavement, and then we really are trying to minimize the disruption since it's pretty well established in that the area closest to the wetland. We're trying to minimize that, and it looks like this solution will solve that problem.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. And yes, it sounds like Gulick Properties will be in charge of maintaining the easement area. All right. Anybody else want to say anything? Okay, so we have a draft resolution that Aaron has drafted for us. Does any brave person want to do this?
I'll take it for sacrificial lamb and make a motion that we accept application 2233, 100 Bradley Road, with the contingencies that the Inland Wetlands Agency agent shall be notified at least 48 hours prior to commencement of any regulated activity. At all times during site work and until soil areas are stabilized, the applicant shall install and maintain erosion and sediment control measures such as fabric filter fence, staked hay bales, or other measures deemed necessary by the agency agent to prevent erosion and sediment impacts to the wetlands and watercourses. Such erosion control and soil stabilization measures shall comply with the approved plan and the guidelines as established in the Connecticut Guidelines for Soil Erosion and Sediment Control, version 2002. That an updated site development plan set be submitted to the agency reflecting the July 29th, 2022 revisions. That owner's written permission be submitted to the agency agent prior to any site disturbance on the property. That silt fence location be relocated and installed at the actual limits of the disturbance rather than on the wetland boundary. This revision location shall be shown on the updated plan set. All work and all regulated activities conducted pursuant to the authorization shall be consistent with the terms and conditions of this permit. Any structures, excavation, deposition of fill, obstructions of flow, encroachments, or other regulated activities not specifically identified and authorized herein shall constitute a violation of this permit and may result in permit modification, suspension, or revocation. In the event that additional wetland or watercourse regulated activities are required as a result of the agency permitting to support the proposed activity, the Madison Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency reserves the right to reconsider the proposed regulated activity and may require modifications to minimize the impact of the wetlands resources. This permit shall be valid for a period of 5 years. Permit extensions may be authorized in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 22A-36 through 22A-45 inclusive. The Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency renders the decision in accordance with the Madison Wetlands and Watercourse regulations based upon the following considerations. No directives or impacts on the water, wetlands or watercourse are proposed, and potential inland impacts have been mitigated through adequate sedimentation erosion control measures.
Okay. Would anybody like to second?
I'll second it.
Excellent. All right, so we have a motion and a second. This is our last chance. Any other comments? The agency members? Everyone's happy?
Everybody's happy.
All right, excellent. All in favor of the motion as stated?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstaining? Great. All right. You're approved.
Have a good evening.
You
Thank
too.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next application is 22-26 353 Boston Post Road. This, as you will recall, is a proposed, well, as it states here, proposed construction of 22 detached single-family dwellings, associated subsurface sewage, etc. We had a public hearing postponed from last month. The applicant would like to postpone the public hearing again to September, which is within their purview to ask, I guess, or within their rights to ask. As discussed with this application, the town that has reached out and contracted with a wetland scientist, a soil scientist, and the town engineer will be reviewing the application. So given that, pardon?
This was kind of just a placeholder to just
Yeah,
remind you, it didn't fall off the
it
agenda.
didn't fall off, but
Not ready yet for.
not
for
ready
public
for us.
hearing. Yeah.
But given that, and given that it is, now it's been postponed twice, at least twice, we should get a site walk out. Well, we should schedule a site walk. We had discussed that earlier. So this is definitely one that we want a site walk. So just flagging that we'll try to get a site walk in this month, that we can be ready for the public hearing in September 12th. Okay.
Aaron, are we fairly sure they're going to be ready for next month, or do we know?
There are no guarantees in life.
No, only reason I bring it up is I suggest that we delay the site walk as long as we can, because things may change.
I think, no, I do agree with Kayla that we should schedule the site walk for August, and further on down for our receipts, it would be staff's recommendation for another site walk. So I'm hopeful that we can pick maybe a Saturday morning and get the two of those accomplished, so that
Yeah.
you are prepared to proceed on the 12th. Should something happen, but I think at this point, we have a confirmed date of September 12th for the hearing to open. So we should plan accordingly so that we're ready for that date.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying, Lee. But I think because this is going to be a public hearing and we have these, because the town is already contracted, and the soil scientists and town engineer are going to go out and do this, it would be helpful for us just to, at least schedule something. And if it all changes, then we can certainly cancel. And we can push this off to the end of the month. I mean, we can see when people can do it.
Yep, that's
Because
fine.
yeah, and it's not.
That's fine.
Okay.
I just, if there's going to be significant changes,
Yes.
if the applicants makes significant changes, we should probably give them time to make them. But I guess what I'm saying is, let's not do it next week. Let's do it towards the end of the month at least. Right? So,
No, I totally agree. And because we have Labor Day in there, this is pushed off to the 12th anyway, which gives us
Right.
extra time.
Right.
To first, this isn't, we've got 5 weeks or more.
Right.
I totally agree. And yes, it would be, if the application changes hugely, then, we'll have to figure that out. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Okay, but that's all we have to say about that one. All right, so we have section 13s, and these are all that we that Erin went through with us at the last meeting, and she can update us because she was going to go out and check and confirm. So I will let her go through these.
Yes, I think the only one I needed to report back to you on were the beech trees on Concord Drive. I did go out. They are evident, showing signs of disease with the discoloration of the leaves and the leaves that are dying. There are actually multiple beech trees on the property, some which are still healthy for this year. But I can see how they are located along the driveway, that should they come down unplanned, they would block the driveway from access. And these, just to reiterate, the plan was just to cut the trees and, chip them directly off site and no stump removal. So I think, they're clearly marked which ones need to go. And so I was comfortable doing that as an agent approval. And we'll likely see them back in the future for more beech trees, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the other two were no changes. That was just as proposed.
Right. Okay. Okay, so our next, so we're receiving an application tonight, 22-36 Race Hill Road. This is for regulated activity to construct a 20-foot span galvanized steel structural plate arch culvert that will carry a residential driveway over Dowd Hollow Brook. Again, so when we have these for receipt, this is an opportunity for us to assess the application and decide if we need a site walk, public hearing, or nothing. As Erin already alluded to previously, her recommendation is a site walk for this one. If you've looked at the plans, is significant activity in a wetland, right? And there's fill and there's a lot happening. Erin, did you want to say anything else about
Yes.
the recommendation?
So if you have not, just to kind of give you an overview, this is a spanned arch culvert over Dowd Hollow Brook. It's an existing undeveloped property, residentially zoned. And this is just to access the property. The water course does run along the entire frontage of the lot. And so I think at this point, it does include the filling of wetlands and the wetland crossing. So it would be staff's recommendation that this be considered a significant activity with respect to the regulations. As part of that, and just to bring your attention to section 7.6 of our regulations, if a proposed activity involves a significant activity, then some additional information is required to be submitted by the applicant. However, the agency may excuse compliance with some of those sections of the regulations, and I thought it may be helpful for the applicant. The applicant's engineer is here at the meeting, Michael Ott, to maybe go through some of these and at least be able to flag what information you're looking for at this time to be included with the significant activity, so that they may be better prepared for the public hearing process. So I can pull up that section of the regulations if that's helpful, and you can just kind of bullet through them and highlight out what you think may be relevant. I think also, excuse me, seeing the site will help familiarize yourself a little bit with the conditions out there. You know, the grade of the road versus the grade of the site, there is kind of a drop off off of Race Hill Road. So in order to get, and then, so it drops down into the wetlands, crosses the water course, and then slowly the topography raises again on the opposite side of the brook. So some of the challenge, I think, was maintaining a level access for sight lines out on Race Hill and actually connecting over to the drier upland. So yes, I think a site walk is relevant. The extent of work could be deemed a significant activity as defined in your regulations. And then the other question, I guess, would be whether or not the commission felt you needed some sort of third-party review of the application. I was not here for your previous applications for bridge replacements and whatnot in the town, but I just at least wanted to let you know your options moving forward. So
Right. Well, no, and I just wanted to clarify, having a significant activity, does that automatically trigger a public hearing? Yeah, that's okay. Right.
Yes,
Just to be clear, just so everyone knows that, you can look up this definitely, I think, falls into that. I mean, there's filling of wetlands and it's significant activity. So this will be another public hearing for us. Have fun. But
we have public hearings all the time in zoning. They're less common in inland wetlands, but
yes,
they shouldn't be too scary.
No, we've just had some long ones.
That's true. That's true. The ones you've had have been contentious, right?
Yeah, but hopefully this won't be. So did you want to pull up the 7.6?
Sure.
We can look at that.
Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So as I indicated, the agency may excuse compliance with any of these specific items if you don't find the information is necessary for you to determine detrimental or impacts to the wetlands or risks. So some of these you've already have. Site plans for proposed activity, we have that. Engineering reports or drawings. We do have some engineering, quite a bit of engineering information from Summerhill Engineering. I think the question was the extent of environmental information that you need beyond the survey and the civil drawings that you have. See description of ecological communities and functions of wetlands or watercourses involved with the application and effects of the proposed regulated activities on these communities and wetland and watercourse functions. D, biological evaluation of any wetlands or watercourses pertinent to the proposed activity. Botanical species, rare species, forest, age class, fauna, habitat value for all wildlife species, depth of water table below surface or level of water if inundated, the location of any vernal pools. E, description of how the applicant will change, diminish, or enhance the ecological communities and functions of the wetland or watercourse involved in the application, and the alternatives and description of why each alternative considered was deemed neither feasible or prudent. F, the effect of the proposed activity or use upon a watercourse within a part or partly within the affected property, including pH, alkalinity, acidity level, turbidity, or solids in parts per million, bacteria count on coliforms per milliliter, flow, if any, in cubic feet per second, estimate of the changes in 1 through 4 resulting from the proposed usage, best management practices and other measures that would mitigate the impact of the proposed activity. They include but are not limited to plans or actions which avoid destruction or diminution of wetland or watercourse functions, recreational uses, natural habitats, which prevent flooding, degradation of water quality, erosion, sedimentation, and obstruction of drainage, or otherwise safeguard water resources. So some information is included in what you have already, and some has not been. Maybe that's easier to kind of scale out so you can see all of them at once. But if if you see something that stands out that you think is relevant to this particular application, I would just ask that we kind of voice that now so that the applicant knows ahead of time, and can get the appropriate professionals on board.
Great. Okay, so does anybody, I don't want to hog all the speaking. If anybody else wants to jump in, if anybody would like to see extra information.
I'm just curious, I would like to see if any vegetation will be taken out for this project. And if so, will there be any replanting along that same stream to mitigate for that loss of vegetation?
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I would be interested in the impacts on the ecological communities. What are they predicting may happen, as well as well.
So that's C.
Yes. I guess we can just pick our letters here.
What if it's C, D, and E?
C and D.
C, D, and E. Yeah, and
And
because I
G.
think, pardon?
And G.
And G. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
G's a good one too. I love this kind of menu. Like this one. Okay, so it sounds like C, D, E, and G.
Got it.
Do the rest of the members, are the rest of the members happy with those choices?
I like F as well. I mean, the impact on the water course, I think, is important. And I think,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think the soil scientists, of record who delineated the wetlands for this, hopefully has seen this section of the requirements and will provide a robust and detailed wetland assessment and functions and values report that also talks about any impacts to the wetlands and the associated ecological communities.
I was
Okay,
going to add to that.
So basically everything.
we want everything.
It says impacts.
Go ahead, Anna. Did you want to say?
Plus on us, but anyway.
No, I was just about to say the same thing, including A and B, especially B, just making sure that the changes or questioning if the changes will impact the water courses downstream.
Okay. So I guess, so that's great. That's very clear. That'll be very clear to the applicant. I guess the next question for us is, do we feel like we want a third party? Just the same as we're doing with the Barbary Hill estates, contracting out and having a third party give us independent information, or are you guys okay with having the applicant provide their experts answers to the questions that we are asking?
Can we defer that decision to see what I don't have it. I'm comfortable with an applicant having their own, unless there's significant pushback from the public for some reason. Can we delay making that kind of decision until we see if there's how much controversies goes along with it?
Well, I think timing wise, if you were going to move forward, time is of the essence if you wanted to have someone. I do, and I think maybe, the applicant's engineer could speak to this as well. There's additional permit process beyond the local permitting for this bridge work. It is subject to DEP approvals, I believe, and perhaps Mike, you can refresh my memory if this is subject to Army Corps as well, or if it's just DEP approval.
So he's not a panelist.
Right, and Mike,
There he is.
Mike, are you here? If you're able to unmute, you can answer that question. The additional, is this just a deep permit process, or does this require Army Corps as well?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Aaron, for making my presentation for me.
Well, I didn't want you to pre-present before
I don't have much,
hearing either,
I
but
don't have much more to say. Just for the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors in Madison. We have asked Richard Snarsky, who is the wetland scientist and soil scientist, based on a conversation that I had with Aaron, to prepare an evaluation and an impact report. So he's begun that already. So we'll get that into the record as soon as we can, hopefully early next week. The project and I'd be glad to get into a little bit of the details if you want me to, but I'll just answer Aaron's question specifically. So the project requires, in addition to a regulated activity application to you all, it requires that we meet, the project will be completed under the Connecticut General Permit, the Army Corps of Engineers Connecticut General Permit program, specifically General Permit number 19 for watercourse, that covers watercourse crossings. So the general permit is in place. There's certain criteria that have to be met. We have to ensure that we meet those criteria, and we have to send a what's called a self-verification notification form to both the Corps and the Connecticut DEP. It's only a 2-page form. Pretty basic information about the project, who the contractor will be, who the engineer is, who the applicant is, and the owner, and some basic information about the project. And the Corps and the DEP have the ability, the authority to request more information if they want to, if they would like to. But it's our responsibility to make sure that we meet, the project is designed and constructed to meet those criteria. So after we go through the local process, if we were to receive approval, we would submit that form to the Corps and to the Connecticut DEP. This is a private project, as you can imagine. You know, this is just a residential driveway that will serve a single family residence. It's not, there are no state or federal funds involved in it. So the requirements are a little bit different from what you may have seen most recently. For instance, the Heatherwood Drive bridge replacement. So that was done, that's being done under one of the bridge programs, the state or federal bridge programs. And with that funding comes certain requirements where, because this is private and isn't receiving any government funding, it's a little bit different. But the design requirements are pretty much the same. And the Corps of Engineers and the general permit requirements are the same. Actually, that project is done under the same general permit, the Heatherwood Drive replacement.
Okay. Got it.
All right.
Thank you, Mike. So, yes, I guess to answer the question, there are additional requirements that the applicant has beyond the local jurisdiction as well. I don't know if that's helpful or not in making your determination if you feel you need some outside either engineering review or environmental assessment of the project.
So maybe if I could just say, maybe this will help you a little bit. One of the requirements is actually that we provide a certain span and that we provide a certain waterway opening. And that's in part why the structure is so large. So we're spanning the stream channel at the crossing location, the top of bank to top of bank width is about 16 feet. Our structure will span that at a 20-foot span. And there will be, I don't know if Aaron talked about this, but there will be disturbance, temporary impacts to the stream channel during construction, and there'll be permanent impacts to the associated inland wetlands on each side of the watercourse channel. Those permanent impacts would be fill, the fill that needs to be placed to approach the crossing, and then approach the crossing from both sides. So pretty standard. As long as one of the requirements for the general permit is that we don't fill over 5,000 square feet of inland wetlands, and we're filling about 2,100 square feet. So if you look at the drawings, if you get a chance to look at them before the next meeting or before the site walk, you'll see what I mean about spanning the channel. Although there will be temporary impacts, the natural stream bed channel material will be put back, and the stream channel will not be narrowed in any way or restricted in any way.
Okay, well, that's helpful. So in hearing from Mike and Aaron, what do you guys think? Do you want a third-party review, or do you want to just have the applicant do our C through G for section 7.6?
I think the second option is good.
All right. Anybody else?
I'm sorry, Anna, what did you say? I couldn't understand you.
She was going to choice 2.
Yes.
The not the third party, just having the applicant have their soil scientists go through and do our C through G menu requests.
I choose 2 also then.
Okay, just picking off the menu. Anybody else comments? Does anybody feel strongly enough to advocate for a third party review? No, it's 9 o'clock and everyone is tired.
No.
One thing I did want to say for the plans, I see that there are the impact areas in a table, but unless I'm missing them, I think we'd also want to see those impacts either shaded or hatched out on the plan itself, so we know where those impacts are.
Okay.
I think it was hard to hear you, but I think you asked if the impact areas are shown on the plan.
Yes.
Yes.
They are. If you look at the ortho photograph, which is sheet C0 or C1.1, the impact area is shaded in blue, and it's called out. It's actually called out on that plan.
Okay, then in that case, just including that impact area with the square footage noted, and then as well on the site plan below it. I think it's
Yeah.
next sheet below.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the 2,100 square feet that I was talking about, the permanent impact area. We can delineate that on the plan also. The 20 scale blown up version of the plan, we can delineate that there also. In fact, it is delineated. It's just turned off right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would be great. All right. So it sounds like, Mike, hopefully you heard that, we were looking for some extra information about impacts, proposed impacts, what's listed in section 7.6 of the inland wetlands regulations. And we'll schedule a site walk
And
Okay.
to follow up
and a
on
public hearing.
that thought, is September 12th agreeable to open the public hearing? We do have time, I believe, for notification. So that would keep things moving along here.
That's fine
Okay.
with me.
Is what day of the week is September 12th there?
It's
A Monday.
On Monday.
Oh, so you could, the first Monday must be,
That's Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Yes.
Oh,
We're pushed
okay.
back a week.
Okay.
Unless, as the applicant, you have a conflict and wanted to push it to October.
It might be a long meeting on the 12th.
Maybe.
It may not.
Maybe not.
I have a Harbor Management Commission meeting in Old Saybrook on the 12th, but we'll work it out. We'll figure it
Okay.
out.
You could, you could always just grant an extension for the following month. That's fine, Mike, you can work that out. Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks.
Great.
guys.
All right, so moving along, we have approval of minutes. We have our regular meeting minutes from July 11th and our special walk meeting minutes from July 28th. So, if anybody has, I didn't see.
I didn't see anything in either one of them.
Yeah, I didn't
Looks
either.
like-
Did anybody else pick out anything? I thought they were nicely done, very straightforward.
Yep.
Okay, well,
I move we approve the regular meeting minutes of July 11th, 2022, and the special site walk minutes for July 28th, 2022.
I'll second that.
all right. Any other comments? All in favor, raise your hands, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Okay, great. Remarks? I have no remarks. It'll be, we'll get these sidewalks maybe pushed towards the latter half of the month.
Sure, I'll have Maria send out.
Okay,
And poll everybody. This was a long meeting, but we cleared out a lot of applications in the last few weeks of taking care of business. So, you've had a heavy load and it looks a little lighter moving forward, at least into September. So that's good.
that's great. That's right, because we only received one
application.
application tonight.
Right.
Nicely done. Good job, us.
We won't have a 3-page agenda next month, which is refreshing.
Just have two long ones instead, all right? So,
Well,
Right.
yeah, we'll see. Okay, so wait, I have to look at that's it. But I will entertain one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
A second. All right, all in favor?
Thanks.
aye,
All right.
aye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
See you
Bye.
later.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good
Thank you, Aaron.
Bye-bye.